Hi, I'm Eric Freeman Poli, and today we're going to make polenta con Puccu. It is a dish from the Trentino region of Italy. Both of my grandmothers made it, and the one I'm making for you today is the one that one of my grandmothers made. So we start with 6 cups of cold water, and to that we add 2 cups of cornmeal. You should turn the stove on high and sort of sift the cornmeal in to the pot. To begin, you should take a kitchen whisk and whisk pretty aggressively to avoid getting lumps in the polenta, which is the reason we use cold water instead of warm water. I know a lot of recipes say bring the water to a boil, but it's harder to get the lumps out. After you've whisked for a little bit, just let it sit and see if you have any lumps coming to the top. This looks pretty good. You should use a wooden spoon to stir after this. You don't need the whisk anymore. I have a pretty nifty little gadget here that my grandfather made for my mother for her wedding. And it's called a triza, which is our dialect. It is, because we say we triza la polenta, and it is just to be able to stir the polenta, but because it's so long, you get all of the polenta in when you stir, and you'll see that when I stir. So now the water is starting to come to a boil, and you want to start to stir in a clockwise motion, and then cut straight across the middle of the polenta both ways, so you're sort of making a cross in the polenta. Once you do the crosswise motion and you make sure that all of the polenta is loose, you don't want any of it sticking to the sides yet, then you can just continue to let it rest. It should start to look a little more like polenta, then the water should get a little more yellow. This polenta pot, incidentally, was given to my other grandmother, not the one that belonged to this one, for her wedding in 1919. So it's tried and true, and it's seen many polentas. And at this point, I'm going to turn the gas down a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and start on our chicken. I start by adding my oil to the pan. And then I turn the heat up to high. Now that the oil is heated up, I'm going to add my onions. You want the onions to cook until they're translucent. In order to help them along, I usually add a pinch of kosher salt because it helps to take the moisture out of the onions. I also turn the heat down on the onions a little bit so that they don't burn to the bottom. While those are cooking, I just am going to stir the polenta. It's at this point you want to make a circular motion and make sure you get to the bottom of the polenta, the bottom of the pot, and make sure nothing sticks. I would say the onions are about ready. So now we will add the chicken. When you add the chicken, just try and push it down through the onions. Don't lay it on top of the onions. You want it to really brown. You can now turn the heat up. Don't turn it to about medium high. We're going to let the chicken brown now. It'll be about 5 minutes per side. Our chicken is now browned enough. So what I'm going to do is add the rest of my ingredients. I start with adding the remainder of the wine. I put some wine into the tomato paste to soften it up. And I'm going to add the remainder to the chicken dish. I put the wine in first because I want to deglaze the pan, because there's a lot of yummy stuff that's stuck to the pan right now, and you want to make sure that you get it off because it adds to the flavor of the whole dish. I also turned the heat back up to high so that everything can start to blend. Add the tomato paste. Tomato paste can be a little tricky to stir into the dish, so you just want to do small circular motions in the middle and sort of try and push it out to the edges to get it evenly dispersed. Otherwise, it's going to end up all over you and all over the kitchen. Now I add, it depends if you like clove. I tend to like it, so I'll add about 6 dried cloves. I also add about 1/4 cup of dried porcini mushrooms. I do not reconstitute them. I just add them as they are. So I'm going to turn it down to low, cover it, and let it simmer for about 35 minutes. I'm going to be checking it just to make sure it's not burning. Don't forget to still pay attention to your polenta. At this point, the polenta is really getting almost done. You're going to start to see a sort of a crust forming on the edge, and that means it's starting to settle. When you're done, do not throw away the crust, eat it, because it's probably the best part of the polenta. Now the puccu is done and the polenta is done as well. So here comes the tricky part. We now have to take the pot and flip the polenta on a wooden board, so in order to get it to come out. So everyone keep your fingers crossed. 1, 2, 3. Give it a good bang on the bottom. And you gotta grab it. And there's polenta. Now, you can cut it with a spatula. We use string, and you just take the string, push it in, pull it back, and you have the polenta. And then you can just take a spoon and plate it. Then I'm going to take the same spoon and you dip it in the puccu, get the sauce, push it in the middle to create a gully, and then just take some of the chicken, put it on top, and there you have it, polenta con puccu.